joining us here at Pastor's Corner. It's good to be here. Thank God for His mercy, His grace, His strength, His peace that passes all understanding. We're going to be going into the second book of Corinthians, 2 Corinthians chapter 10, and we're going to start with the fourth verse, 2 Corinthians 10 and 4. For the weapons of our warfare are not carnal, but they're mighty through God to the pulling down of strongholds, casting down imaginations and every high thing that exalteth itself against the knowledge of God, and bringing into captivity every thought to the obedience of Christ, and having in a readiness to revenge all disobedience when your obedience is fulfilled. There's not a lot of words in these scriptures, but there's so much going on that is said in these short sentences in the scriptures here. There's a lot of depth being given to us, and it's us being able, because it says the weapons of our warfare are not carnal, it's not physical, it's not outward, it's spiritual. The weapons of our warfare are not carnal, but it's a spiritual, they're mighty in God. So that tells us that we are in warfare. It even says you in the scripture here, that we are in a spiritual warfare, if we know it or not. And even as it says our weapons are not carnal, it's also that for us to understand in our spiritual minds, but our carnal minds will fight against it. What I mean is our carnal minds, our minds in the physical realm will not comprehend what's happening in the spiritual realm. What I mean by that, if we don't allow the spiritual mind to be put on and have a sensitivity, an ability to recognize the spiritual warfare that happens. Now, let me take it in the physical realm and then move it over to the spiritual realm. But let's start in the physical realm. But in the physical realm, looking at it from there, what I'm going to call cause and effect. Cause and effect. In the physical realm, when we do something, we act out in the physical realm, there's going to be a result from it. When we do the right thing, let me give example, that we go to work and we earn money in the physical realm, we get the money back to us. It's a cause and effect. We work, and then the compensation comes back to us in the compensation in the form of money, and then the money allows us to take care of physical needs. And then we can not work and earn, but we could go spend. And we go spend and spend and spend, and exhaust our resources in the physical realm. It's cause and effect. The swinging of the pendulum. If it was just a pendulum was here and it was just freely hanging here, and you were able to send the force with your force to send it up this way, the pendulum's going to swing back this way. We all know what that looks like. So you push the pendulum and it goes this way, and what's going to happen? It's going to come back this way. If you barely move it, it's just going to go a little bit this way, and it's going to come back a little bit this way. Cause and effect in the physical realm. It's something necessary for us to comprehend in the physical realm. I call it knowledge. Whatever it is that we do in our lives, that we have knowledge and knowledge of understanding debits and credits, that we understand deposits and withdrawals, that we understand our actions bring blessings and our actions can cause havoc. What we do in the physical realm, that we have an impact, be it good or be it not good, with what we do, what we say, how we act. And it's very necessary for us to be able to understand this cause and effect in the physical realm, to understand that. So like I said, I wanted to start with that. And again, I call it knowledge. I don't want to get into all the depth of knowledge, because that's not what we're talking about this morning, but having the understanding of cause and effect. But then transferring that into the spiritual realm, where people can count out the spiritual things. They just block it out and believe it's non-existent, and not realizing what we do in our lives to either allow the spiritual blessings, the anointing, his presence to move in our lives, or the opposite, opening doors to the enemy, the demonic presence. Now, I don't want us to view that this is extremely difficult to understand and that we're reading into everything. It's us just having the knowledge of not opening the door to the wrong things and allowing that to come into our lives, but laying out the blessings of the Lord. I'll just give you an example. I may have shared this in the past, but I like to sleep with the Bible on. I've done that for many years, I'll say decades. Not every night, but I would like to every night. I say I like to. It's also my wife, she prefers more silence. She's gotten used to the Bible playing, But I used to use a cassette, because that's how far back I have been doing this. So I had the Bible and the cassettes, and then I put a cassette on, and the cassette would play. And I remember having one where the cassette would play one side, and then it would hit and go back on the other. If those of you that have been around a while, you understand what I'm talking about. But that's about as much as you can get out of the old cassette players, was getting the two sides of a cassette plate, unless you got up and started it all over. But normally that wouldn't happen. I would go to sleep, and just then it would be off. Later on, when I got a CD changer, I put in different Bible CDs in there, and then I would have like some type of worship music, and then I'd put it on random and just let it go. So then it'd have worship music and scriptures going throughout the night. And that was something that I did. Now it's so much easier. There's so many other ways of hearing the Bible. But I have that playing. So what happens that I'm hearing these scriptures, sometimes it's the book of Psalms or Proverbs, or one of them that I listen to quite a bit is the book of Genesis, which is full of stories in there in the book of Genesis. It has a lot of stories, and I'm in and out of the stories in my sleep. The other ones I like is, and I've been doing that a long time, is the Gospels, Matthew, Mark, Luke, and John. But it plays, and it's going through, and maybe I kind of wake up and I hear a little bit and go back to sleep. And yes, what does sometimes happen is it literally, I hear it in my sleep, in my dreams. Not all the time am I hearing it in my sleep, but Sometimes I'm hearing different portions of scriptures in my sleep. But what this does is it speaks to my life. It allows my thoughts to be in this realm, and then waking up and beginning what I'm after, going after on any given day, and setting up that environment in my personal life of allowing it to be spiritually clean, if I could use the word clean. My life can be spiritually clean as compared to a life that is full of havoc, chaos, friction, and all the results that come from opening up the wrong things, conflict, just uncomfortable, an uncomfortable environment. And it's something that you can get, that of course we're talking about is spiritual, but it can manifest emotionally, it can manifest physically. And you'll be able to sense, all of us can, you'll sense it, I can sense when environment, and we walk into an environment and it's spiritually clean, and you just know that the peace is there, the peace is there. Recently we've had a lot of people coming through our house, and I've had numerous friends that actually spent the night with us because they came to visit my father, and then just stayed the night because they came from distances. So I had numerous friends that spent the night at our house throughout these previous days. And the comment is always that people will make is there's a peace. They pick that up, especially when somebody spends the night. They pick this peace up, and what happens is they get a deep rest in there. And it's like, wow, I don't know what happened, but I just slept and slept. I went into a deep sleep. But it was the peace that is set in there that we intentionally lay out. We lay out a peace that we go to have in our lives and we want in our lives, as compared to just chaos and friction and bouncing off the walls and just different things like that. That the older I get, the less I want that, and the more I just want calmness. I want peace. I want a blessed environment, and understanding, yes, we are in a warfare. The weapons of our warfare are not carnal. We're going into a spiritual warfare, but we can be in our spiritual warfare but yet have peace in our life. It's one of the great things to have in your life, is that you are at the right battle and the right warfare. That what I mean by right, you're doing the warfare that God has called you to fight, the right fight that you're called to fight, as compared to the wrong fight. And you're in the right fight, but what you get when you're in the right fight is a peace. Now that sounds like a contradiction, because how can you be at war but yet have peace? Because the peace is in our heart, and then the warfare is happening around us. The reason we have peace is because we know we're in the right place at the right time doing the right thing. And that's a precious place to be, is in the right place at the right time doing the right thing, and you'll have a peace with that. As compared to being in some conflict, some confrontation, some disagreement that is fruitless. It's a fruitless, we talked about that last week, the fruitless battles that we need to stay out of. When I say we, that I need to stay out of and you need to stay out of. What do I mean stay out of? There's some things that you cannot do anything about, and it's best that you just stay away from that. Like, instead of trying to change, trying to get a hold of a situation, manipulate a situation. And there's people that are living in bondage. They're living in a wicked life, and you would like to change them. I would like to change them. But many people don't want to change. They don't want to leave that life. And all we can do is pray for them. Be an example, be a model, be a light. Maybe we plant a seed, but you cannot put your hands on it and try and make somebody stop doing something or make somebody do something, which people won't understand that about me. I can't force people to come to the house of the Lord. I can't make them come. I can't say, don't stay home on Sunday and barbecue and watch football. I can say it, but if somebody, that's what they want to do, all I can do is pray for them. And what I mean by that, that's where they're at. And some people, it's worse than that. They're chasing drugs and doing that. And I could tell them to stop. I could tell them cause and effect, but I can't force them to stop. All I can do is pray for them. I have had it, though, where people have really gone out into the weeds in their life and then come back and say, why did you let me do that? How did you let me do that? And why didn't you stop me? Well, I try when I give these words out, but how much more can I do other than speak these lessons and teachings and pray for somebody, other than what? Grabbing them from their house, tying them up and taking them to a location and locking them in a room away from all that and just preach and teach them. You can't do that legally. You can't do it either. That would be kidnapping. All you could do is be an example, and many people can't see the example. Be a light, be a model, and let people see from your fruits, my fruits, our good works, and glorify our Father in heaven, the Bible talks about. But trying to stop somebody from living a certain life, all we can do is pray for them. We can disagree with it. We can criticize it, but I call that, again, fruitless. So you pray for them, but understanding your environment, your surroundings, the room you live in life, most importantly, your mind and your heart, and how you live in your mind and your heart. Because we open the door and we don't understand the physical realm, and we don't understand the spiritual realm. We don't understand cause and effect. And then all of a sudden we allow the wickedness, the evilness, the darkness of the demonic lives of spirits and presences out there to begin to set in our own lives. And what that does is eventually things manifest. They manifest when that comes in. And I know we've said this before, but one of the last stages when that is set in is sexual immorality. And sexual immorality, when you see that running rapid and you see it going on, if you look back on it, what happened is that door was left open, and they didn't, whoever people are that go that path, because they go down and it may start small and little, and then it grows into these horrible things, and eventually it could get really horrible, and it becomes public and people hear about it. But the life of it, and people don't realize where it came from. It came from not keeping the environment where it should be laid out in a cleanness, a pureness, a holiness, keeping things right vertically, keeping things right horizontally. And of course, fasting is part of that, keeping our fasting life dialed in and doing what is in our hands to do, and understanding cause and effect. But the results go and the lives eventually explode. They eventually fall apart. And there's people that have become well-known, rich and famous and all of that, but they've done it through wickedness and evilness. Eventually it's going to come back and it's going to destroy their lives. It's already inwardly destroying it, but eventually you hear. And then sometimes you hear somebody go on a rant and just coming down on things and criticizing all kinds of stuff, and a lot of people won't recognize what that is. Why are they saying that? Why are they speaking like that? Well, it's evidence that they had gone down that path. And the wickedness and evilness, like an individual that is getting criticized right now publicly and losing endorsements and everything like that, had said that Hitler has done some good things. And they've said some things that people are pushing back on now, and the person's defense was trying to stand up for Hitler, trying to defend Hitler. And it's like they don't even know what they've gotten into. They don't even realize what's coming out of them. They're saying things that if anybody that is of a sound mind would be able to say, how do you stand up and even defend Hitler? Well, it's because they walked into this environment, the spiritual warfare. And when you see it, this isn't just a intellectual, political conversation, dialogue. No, this is a spiritual thing that has happened to the individual, and they don't even know it. What can you do about it? What can I do about it? We can pray. But more importantly than trying to stop somebody that's defending Hitler, we need to watch our lives. We need to watch what we do, what we say, in how we carry ourselves. Not out of fear, but out of love. And realizing my environment's too precious, your environment's too precious. And that you protect it, you guard it, and understand the weapons of your warfare, the weapons of my warfare. And then towards the end here where it says that we're revenging our disobedience. In other words, that we were disobedient, but now we're living an obedient life. What's an obedient life? An obedient life is a life where we follow the structure, we follow the system of the Lord, of his kingdom, capital H-H-I-S, his kingdom, capital K, that we follow his kingdom. Thy kingdom come, thy will be done on earth as it is in heaven. That we follow that format. We follow that roadmap, the roadmap of his kingdom. And we pray that. Pray like this: thy kingdom come, thy will be done on earth here as it is in heaven. Because in heaven, it's laid out the way that it's supposed to be. Just like the tabernacle is laid out. The temple would have followed the layout of the tabernacle. Now, I can't get into the layout of the tabernacle, but the metaphor of the tabernacle, that we enter his gates with thanksgiving in our hearts. We enter his courts with praise. We walk in, we go through the steps of entering in through the gates, entering into the courts, entering into the holy place, entering into the holiest of holies. And once you get into there, now we are at the holiest of holies. Another way of saying is the place where the Word dwells, and his presence sits on top of what was there, the Ark of the Covenant. Now, the Ark of the Covenant in the spiritual realm should be our hearts. Our hearts should be the Ark of the Covenant, and that his presence can rest upon us because we understand the structure, the format. We live the life of laying those things out. Now it's a spiritual thing. They physically did that, but now we spiritually do that. And I believe right here that the cloud is over us right here in this place right here in this sanctuary. And the pillar of cloud in the day and the pillar of fire at night. And it's over us that rests here, because this is his place to dwell. And when I started out and I talked about walking in that presence, God is omnipresent. He's everywhere, all-knowing, and he's not trapped in time, place, or body. But his presence, his anointing is not everywhere. The place where the word dwells is not everywhere. But where it is, that's a place we want to be. Where the place where his word dwells, we want to be there. We want to be in that presence. We want that presence to live in us. I'm going to give you this last one, and hopefully you can take this and apply it, because this is going to be a deep one that is so important if you can take it as I give this to you. Where the Bible talks about pray without ceasing, without stopping, to pray without stopping, like having a life that is a life of prayer, a life of blessing. A blessing, what I mean is we're speaking blessings, we're giving thanks, we're giving praise. What I call that is we stay plugged in and engaged. We're plugged in and engaged, just like I was talking about sleeping with the word on. But we're plugged in and engaged, and we stay plugged in and engaged. We're always plugged in and engaged. Plugged in and engaged how? Into our connection with the Lord. That it's always connected. As compared to what? That we come in and then we unplug and we disengage. We come back, we plug in, we engage, then we unplug and we disengage. It may look like something like this. We take one step forward, we take two steps back. So we straddle two lives. We live a life where occasionally we're plugged in with the Lord, and then other times we're unplugged and disconnected from the Lord. I encourage you to stay plugged in with the Lord all the time. When people want to argue about when should we worship, what day should we worship on, when is it more important to worship and less important to worship, I don't argue any of that, because I believe that we should always be engaged. We should always be looking to worship. We should always be looking to praise, not circling, okay, this day I'm going to worship, this day I'm not. Yes, I know that there are set appointments, there are set days, there are feasts that we recognize, and they have a representation physically and spiritually. And yes, we recognize each one of those feasts. Now I'm saying the feasts because those are the ones that were given in the word of the Lord, as compared to what? We got Thanksgiving, we have what we spoke about before last week, Christmas. We have here in the United States, they celebrate the independence of the United States, the 4th of July. I'm just picking out. These are certain days, right? But then there's days that are appointments. They're set, and that we recognize how that lays out in the spiritual realm. I don't want to get too deep there, but every day we can give thanks. Every day we can give praise. Every day we can stay engaged, so that 365, 7 days, 24, that we stay engaged and not looking, okay, I get it. This is how the society is set up, and it's been set up since all of us have been born, that Sunday's the day that people go to the house of the Lord. There are people that do Saturday, and to me, I'm good with that. People go to the house of the Lord on Saturday. I'm good with it. But I'm also good with people coming to church on Sunday. How about both? I'm okay with doing both too. Now, what do I mean by that? We don't worship the day. We don't worship the day. Now, even the names of the days, Sunday, Monday, it works. It's easier to look in Spanish, as you say, lunes, the moon, martes, Mars, miércoles, Mercury, Jueves, Jupiter, they're pulled off of the planets. The days are. I know I'm giving you some different type of knowledge, but the days are named that way. We don't worship the days. We don't worship the moon. We don't worship the sun. We don't worship Mars. We don't worship Jupiter. We don't worship Mercury. We don't worship the days. But how about we just worship the Lord every day and we just stay engaged? We stay plugged in. But a fruitless battle, as I begin this, and I'm going to start to wrap it up, was let's argue about that. Because technically, should the days even be named the way they're named? No, they shouldn't. But that's how we recognize it. January, February, March, April, May. I'm not going to get bent out of shape. And I'm not going to try and change the system. We could talk about Mountain Standard Time, Pacific Time, Eastern Time, the times, which is another argument that people have. And there's people, they want to change that, and some people don't want to change it. We don't recognize daylight savings here in Arizona. Most of the country, there's just a little bit of, I think it's New Mexico, a little part there, but the rest of the country recognizes daylight savings. But what does it mean? If you really sit there and argue about it, it means nothing now. But some people, it's just become tradition. Fall forward, spring back, changing the clock. We lived in California. I was used to, we changed the clock. They just recently did that. But I'm not going to argue about it. I'm not going to debate about it. And I'm not going to be bent out of shape if somebody says Saturday or somebody says Sunday. But it's not going to make me bend out of shape. But what I'm going to say is I can stay plugged in if it's a Monday, it's a Thursday, it's a Friday, it's a Tuesday. That you can stay plugged in. I can stay plugged in. That I can realize being engaged with the Lord, 247-365. You got it. Thank you for joining us today on this beautiful Sunday. We will be back here live and in person, 1363 South Vineyard in Mesa. And we will be here at 12 o'clock, worshiping, coming together, lifting the name of the Lord, engaging, plugging in, and hopefully staying plugged in. We will be having a Christmas Eve service. I know I explained that last week. But it will be Saturday, December 24th at 4 o'clock. Saturday, December 24th at 4 o'clock. We will not be having a service on Sunday the 25th. The sanctuary will be open for those who want to come and pray. We will be on Pastor's Corner. I realize a lot of you will be celebrating on that morning, but you are welcome to join us on Pastor's Corner on that Sunday, December 25th. In fact, I encourage you to. But our Christmas Eve service will be Saturday, December 24th at 4 o'clock. I know I'm repeating myself, and we won't be here on Sunday. We encourage you to join us. It's moving quick like it does. It moves fast. But thank you for joining us. If you would like to give, you could text 77977, New Creation AZ, New Creation AZ 77977. Thank you one more time, and have a blessed Sunday.